It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello.
Wow.
Okay.
She's already lost it.
Sorry. Hello.
Do you think I'm amusing?
Oh.
You
What am
think I'm a clown?
am I a
You
clown?
find me
Do you
amusing?
find me amusing?
Mm-hmm.
We already know how y'all are doing, so I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Oh, man.
Funny how she leads with that pretty much every
Yeah.
time these days.
Mm,
It's kind of one of those things. It's like, oh, damn, what did I do? What did I do? I don't think I did anything.
That you remember or that
Yeah.
you want to talk about?
That's really noteworthy, you know. Yeah, it's been a slow week for me. I've got the baby's birthday coming up, so that's kind of consumed everything. So, yeah. I'm working on a gift. She has these, you guys probably don't know who he is, but his name's Ryan, and he's like the richest kid on YouTube because he opens toys and, you know, the surprise toys and that that's how it started. And now it's like a whole freaking program. But she's really into him, and they have one where he's punching like a gift, and like it's got all these little, you know, it's probably got like 10 circles on it, and each little place has a different little gift done behind there. Well, every time this comes on, it's so cute. She acts like she's really getting into it and punching too. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do that for her birthday. So that's been a project because one of the things I got her was a tablet, and I'm thinking, does tablet and punching go together?
I wouldn't, but you know.
You know, Amazon says 2 years, no questions asked. So.
It's fine as long as you're willing to return it.
All right. You know.
Test the theory.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been crafting. That's about it.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
mm. Okay.
I guess that makes it my turn.
And it makes it sound like it's going to be a short episode this week.
Oh, I got a little more than that. I got something.
Okay.
So a little ways back, I decided to start looking up movies, or specifically horror movies that I should have seen by now. So I found another one and watched it. And it was one that I was actually a little surprised that I hadn't seen, but when I watched it, I was like, yeah, no, I have never seen this before. It was entirely new to me. And it is this time it is The Return of the Living Dead from 1985.
Really?
Yeah, I had apparently never seen it. I have no memory of it if I did, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which it was the 80s, so who knows, but
Yeah, well, we know your love for the 80s, so yeah.
right. Which made me a little hesitant on this one, but I was like, I've heard a lot about this thing. So if you're not familiar, I'll do a quick synopsis. This is sort of a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. It's sort of billed that way. It starts off with these two guys in a warehouse, in a medical warehouse, and one of them, the older one, is showing the new guy the weird containers that they received accidentally in a shipment several years ago. And of course, the two bumbling idiots knock one open, and shit goes downhill from there. It is essentially there's this whole conversation about this chemical, and it was basically that this chemical was to blame for the zombie outbreak in Night of the Living Dead. And it's a little bit meta the way they're talking about it, because the kids, like the teenagers, like, wait, you mean that movie was real? And so, I mean, which is a fun take. And then the kids' friends are waiting for him to get off work, so they're in the cemetery across the street, and when the corpse that they find gets burned, and it shoots the chemical up into the atmosphere, and it starts raining, and shit goes nuts. It turns into a full-blown zombie movie, which it's funny because, like you said, 80s movies not my thing. Zombie movies, generally speaking, not my thing. I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Oh yeah, it's a blast. It's a trip. I hadn't watched it in a while, but yeah,
it is a lot more fun than it probably should have been. Now, it was fun in a kind of the weird 80s way. I mean, it was billed. I think I watched it on Tubi. I'm not sure if it's still there. I think I saw a thing saying it was going away, but it's worth checking for. It billed it as a horror comedy, which I usually do go for. But I'm not sure comedy really applies. I mean, there are some funny lines, but it's a pretty straight up zombie movie. I mean, there's not a lot of funny in this. There's some weirdness and there's some silliness, but I didn't think of it as comedy after watching it, which I really didn't have a problem with. Like I said, it was pretty good anyway.
Yeah.
What did y'all think of it? Have y'all seen it?
Oh yeah,
many moons ago.
I was going to say, it's been a while, but if I remember right, it wasn't like funny as much as it was like cheesy, and that's what made it funny.
Oh, the music drove me nuts, but yeah. And I think that was a big part of the cheesy for me.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I've seen it a few times, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. But I agree with you. There is some humorous lines in it, but to call it a comedy is a little bit of a stretch. But yeah, I thought it was a fun movie. For a horror film, it's a little bit. It's kind of strange because I almost want to say there was a little bit more of a lighthearted, but it's a dark film because it's a horror film, but it's
right.
There's a little bit more to a lightness to it, as in, kind of a camp.
It's right. It's not as intense as, for example, Night of the Living Dead.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got its tension, it's got its stress, and it's kind of scary, but yeah, it's not on the same scale.
Yeah.
I agree.
And this was Dan O'Banion's directorial debut.
Yes, it was. Which he insisted on basically having the last writing pass on the script also along the way. So.
Which I would let him do that in a heartbeat.
Oh, sure.
He's got the skins on. He had the skins on the wall.
It was yeah. This is post Alien by a few years.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. What I was reading about it said that the reason he got offered the director's job was because the first director they had bailed to go film Life Force, which was another movie that Dan O'Bannon wrote.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I
forgot about that. Yeah.
And it came out about the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
God, that's one I hadn't seen in a long, long time too. I want to see that one.
That was on Tubi also.
Yeah.
I don't. It's been like off and on Tubi. It's like one of those that they can't decide whether they want to keep it or not, or they can't keep it 100% of the time for some reason. I don't know. So sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not.
Life Force is one of the early projects I remember having first encountering Patrick Stewart. Because he's in that, and he was in Excalibur right around the same time, and a few others. And I kind of vaguely remember his face, but not really knowing anything about him. Of course, a few years later, then we got Next Gen. So
Right, and both of those you mentioned, both Life Force and Excalibur. Those are kind of bit parts for him too.
yeah.
So
Well,
he had been in Shakespeare. He'd been in the theater in England forever before that.
Right.
So
Yeah, and then a bit part in Dune.
yeah, which is even a little earlier.
A little bit earlier. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I liked the film, and there was like 3 or 4 sequels.
Yeah, I don't know if I can handle. I don't know if I can handle
Yeah.
the sequels, but not after the way this one ended.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is spoiler alert, in the second film they brought the 2 goofballs back.
Which 2 goofballs?
The
gas guys.
the guys that started the accident.
Oh,
The warehouse guys.
Frank and Freddie.
Yes.
The other thing that got me about this, wow, just wow. The other thing that I found that, I mean, to add to that, or at least part of that camp feel, was some of the names of the characters, like Bert and Ernie.
Wow.
The guy who owns the medical supply is Bert, and the guy who owns the mortuary across the street is Ernie. And they're friends. They've been friends for a long time. They made a very big point. They said this multiple times throughout the movie. They've been friends for like 20 years. Because why not? And apparently also the first paramedics that showed up. I don't remember it from the movie, but I looked at it later, and their names were Tom and Jerry.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't remember that, but yeah. I mean,
and some
trying
of
to be cute.
Yeah, and some of the names of the group of friends, just, oh man.
Yeah.
Very, very 80s, very punk sensibility, which not sure I would have pegged Dan O'Bannon that way, but whatever. That's part of what makes a good writer, to be honest.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I remember it being fun. I remember in a somewhat positive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, cool. Anything else?
No. That's all I got at the moment.
Okay, Les.
Well, I wasn't as deep as that. I did locate a YouTube channel that I'm really getting stuck on. And this is, maybe we've discussed this before. Professor of Rock has a YouTube channel, and he discusses rock and roll and how things came to be, and the backstories of a lot of different stuff. I watched a couple again today. One was with Harry Chapin and Cats in the Cradle, how that came to be, and how Harry was in trouble because of his home life, and how he released Cats in the Cradle, which was written by his wife, and it became a big proponent, or it brought Harry back to thinking about what's going on in his life. So I was really impressed on how this guy handles everything. And for the most part, he will say something like, when I was young, I didn't like this song. I didn't like this group. I didn't like whatever they were doing. But then he tells you why he turned and decided it was well worth the time to listen and to pay attention to what was being said. It's pretty unique stuff. I highly recommend listening to it because it's fascinating to know the stories behind the songs. I also listened to the creator of the song Brandy and how that came to be, and it was a good story too. Just good uplifting music, yet not maudlin. This guy is something that really believes in what he speaks. So it's good stuff. I enjoy it.
Cool. How long of videos is he usually putting out?
Videos range from 12 minutes to a little over a half hour. The one with Brandy was just over a half hour. The one with about Chapin was under a half hour. But if you look under Professor of Rock, there's a slew of them there to watch and listen. And he'll play cuts from them. One of the writers of Brandy and one of the band members of what was the name of the group now? Well, I'm sorry, but if
I'm blanking too.
Looking Glass.
Looking Glass.
Yes.
So if you listen to that, he does an acoustic version of it late during the interview. So it's kind of cool to listen and find that his voice is held up pretty well.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Neat. That definitely sounds like a rabbit trail I could disappear down for a while.
I think you could enjoy it because he does take on a lot of different stuff from the 70s and 80s.
Oh, well, you just lost him for part of it.
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, I can pick and choose. I can read titles. You know, it's all good. There was some good stuff in the 80s, just not much.
Not much that I was fond of either, but
right.
When you locate it, it's good. It's fun.
Nice.
Very cool. Not a lot on my end, just working on stuff that's coming up the next few weeks, getting things ready. And I won't go into too much detail because it's coming up real soon, so y'all just have to stay tuned.
Tease.
A tease. And no, I did not go back down the Shazam or Man from Atlantis trail. I think that was enough.
Oh yeah.
Les wasn't here to hear this last week, but Tubi has added as part of their new editions. They've added the Shazam Saturday morning show.
Oh.
And also the entire run of Man from Atlantis.
Oh.
That was a distinctly different sound right there.
That's okay, Les. I only got it through the pilot, and that was about it.
Okay. You're lucky. That's probably more than I would have lasted.
Well, I kept trying to see how I don't know. I mean, I knew it was only like 13 episodes, but it's like, okay. I was talking about how pedestrian it was. It was just so slow moving. It was like, wow. And this is an hour and a half pilot. And it just, I mean, the concept is interesting. It may be something that someone might try to do down the road, but, who knows?
Yeah, they don't often try to reboot bombs. That's the problem. Even if they were good ideas.
Well, this one probably would. You know, someone could come up with a very similar idea and do it. I think it would. It
Right.
could be kind of interesting.
It's long enough ago that somebody could swipe the basic premise and then actually try to write something good around it.
Yeah.
It could be done. I'm not saying it's never happened.
Yeah, it's happened before. Oh, and I do want to point out something that I brought up on the Geek News from last week. I talked about my news item was about the projection from what was Box Office Pro.
Oh yeah.
You'll have to go back to the last week's show, but there's actually links in the show notes from last week, and if you go to the website, there is a page, Geek News from You. Just look for last week's, and the links are there. But Box Office Pro, back in the 1st of March, did a long-term observation for box office for Morbius. They said they projected, at that time, an opening box office domestically of 40 to 60. And then as of a couple of weeks ago, toward the end of March, they lowered it to 40 to 50, and it actually did like 39.1. So, I mean, they were right there.
They were.
And I think it was less. I think it was less just because of all the slamming and bad reviews it was getting right there before the movie came out. I think it discouraged a lot of people from going to see it. But I'm gonna watch this website. I'm gonna keep tracking. You know, we got Doctor Strange coming up here in the not too distant future. I would be interested in seeing. It's got to come out they got to have a projection for this by the time this episode comes out. So I'm going to definitely take a look at that. And I'll mention that, and it'll be interesting to see how it tracks and how well this website tracks it. And we're talking about box office from theaters. They're not. I don't know how they're going to handle with those that also stream. But it'll be interesting to see. But I was pretty impressed that they were at 40 at the bottom end the entire time, and they were there. I thought that was impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see a few more and see whether impressive turns into coincidence.
Yeah. But still, I mean, I wouldn't have been sitting here and go, it's going to make this much. I would have no freaking idea. No.
I wouldn't have known either, or how to even predict that.
Yeah. Well, unless you're certain people and just, it's going to be billions and billions of dollars. Okay.
Like the Eternals did?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a certain cult, too. So, right. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into this week's discussion, I do want to point out, I think I mentioned it, it's been mentioned earlier, we do have a Discord. It's been up for almost 2 years. We post news items. We post stuff for discussion. We post funny videos, just that kind of, just a lot of fun stuff. Everybody's welcome to come join us. The sign up is free to get the Discord app. It's available on all the app stores, free. We do have an invite on our homepage, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Just click on that and you'll join in. We do have some activities on the Discord during the month. We'll do like a movie night or something like that. We're about due for another one. I know I've been saying that for the last several weeks. Liz actually put out a call to see if there was anybody interested.
Yeah.
but well, we'll do that. So it's always fun. It's always a blast to kind of get on there and talk to other people and have some fun. So if you're interested, come on and join us today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. For this week, our subject, we were going to actually discuss this a couple months ago, but it got pushed back for a couple of reasons. So it seems funny now because I know there was a thing on the Academy Awards kind of celebrating it, but this year marks the 50th anniversary of the release of The Godfather.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, this is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and oh my God, such an incredible cast. You know, you got Al Pacino, James Caan, Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando, Diane Keaton, and I'm missing a few more just right off the top of my head, and I'm sorry for that, but just a very impressive list of actors. It's based off the novel by Mario Puzo. So with that, let's do a little talking about The Godfather. So, hey, Liz, let's get your thoughts about The Godfather.
I guess it's no surprise that I am a fan of gangster movies and TV shows.
Wait, what?
Right? I know. It's me.
Me.
I mean, you have to respect it because this was the Godfather. This was the for me kind of the start of what people modeled after, you know. The real mob ties to it was very interesting. Kind of made it more exciting. Bug. Shh. Bug didn't like it.
Obviously.
Made it a little more exciting to watch it because you knew, you know, stuff really happened. Not The Godfather itself, but yeah. Now, if you take out all of these wonderful, great actors and all the awards this movie has won and everything else, and you just leave it down to story, I didn't get a lot of it. It's kind of one of those that you really have to pay attention to because there's so much laid out to you on this one is related to this one, and this one really is family and not just saying they're family. So, if you kind of miss that. Also, with Michael never wanted to be a mobster. He wanted nothing to do with the family business. And then all of a sudden he comes to one wedding and you can't keep him out of the family business. So I kind of always felt that was kind of, okay, you know. I mean, yeah, I watch it every time it comes on. I like it. Like I said, some of the stories kind of they've done better. And that's why you have to have movies like this so people can come in and be like, okay, this one moved a little slowly. Let's move it along. I think they could have cut out the whole Italy part of it, you know, and kind of made this movie move a little faster. Right? I mean, all he did was he went over there to hide out and he got married instead, you know. So much for the love of your life you had to leave behind. You know?
Details.
Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in 2 and 3, he actually got together with the girl that he left after knowing he went over to Italy and got married. I mean, no. If your little mob friends didn't kill you, I would. That's just wrong. But yeah, like I said, it's good. There's definitely others out there that are better, but I don't think they would have been made without this. So
Yeah, I think that's kind of the big deal here is that, I mean, not by a long shot was this the first gangster movie, but it sure sparked people's interest again. It sure brought it back to the forefront. I mean, you get gangster movies as far back as the 30s.
right.
But yeah, this was a big deal.
Well, this was more of like the inner part of the mob, not the violence and the crime and all that, love triangle that the old mobster movies had. This was actually showing you how family worked and why it worked that way, and why you didn't question why it worked that way, because thousands of years.
Right. It went deeper, for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, I think in 2 and 3 they really sell that part home when they go into Don Vito's dad, what he went through to get there, and that was a little more interesting. So I don't know. Are we talking about 2 and 3 or just the first one? If I had my say, 3 shouldn't have been made.
I've never made it through 3.
Oh man, it's hard. It's rough. It's more of Italy. They should just have left. I know that's the roots for The Godfather is Italy, but it made the story drag.
I mean, if you want to do that, I know I'm in the minority. I'm not a big fan of the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I've heard a lot of people say that they think the second one's way better, but I don't know.
Of the two stories, I'm more interested in Vito's story of him as a kid leaving Italy, coming to America, and seeing him become the Godfather.
Right.
Michael's story just wasn't that interesting, of them moving to Las Vegas and dealing with investigations from Congress, and then the whole thing with Cuba and all that. It just, to me, it was just not that interesting, but that's just me.
Yeah. No, they should have stopped with the first one. They should have. But I think they left so many questions opened in the first one that they kind of had to make the second one to explain.
No, they didn't really have to.
And they made so much fucking money with the first one.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
And I don't know how popular these actors were then, but I mean, this is the cream of the crop right here. If you get them to agree to come back, heck yeah,
Mm-hmm. I mean, many of them were established for sure already. And honestly, this probably put them even more in the limelight.
Right.
In a lot of cases. I mean, especially Al Pacino.
I was going to say, he was starting out here. I mean, he had a couple under his belt, but I think this is what kind of typecasted him for the mob movies he played later on.
Yeah, maybe a little.
He wasn't involved with Goodfellas, though, was he?
No.
Oh. That's probably my favorite gangster movie.
Yeah, I think that movie doesn't get made without The Godfather, though.
Yeah, it wouldn't have.
Because I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. Honestly, that's a movie I haven't seen.
I hadn't seen Goodfellas either.
I liked it because, especially, like I said, I've always been into the mob thing, but a lot of the guys who were in Goodfellas did go over and play parts in Soprano. Some of them were like very high names in Sopranos, so it was kind of cool to see them Well, I already know that was a gangster, so it wasn't hard to fall behind that because, you know. But we'll talk about Goodfellas on another show.
Will we, though? I don't know. It seems inevitable that we will get back to almost anything
Yeah.
if we keep going and keep going and keep going. This is one for me that, it's one of those that I know is an important movie. It was the highest grossing movie of all time for a while. So yeah, it's important, and it, like you said, it relaunched the gangster movie in the early '70s, to the point where you're still doing them. I mean, Goodfellas is what, late '80s?
Mm-hmm. I think 85 was the last one.
They're still making them in the '90s. So it had a big impact. To be honest, though, gangster movies was never really my thing. I mean, I've seen 1 and 2, and I'm not sure, but I think I saw 3. I don't really remember. And it's one of those deals where I was probably too young when I watched these movies. Not necessarily because I wanted to watch them, but because that's what was on. And so, I mean, this movie won Oscars, This movie was the best picture that year. I mean,
all kinds of awards.
Best picture, best actor, best screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
And
best
a list.
Music design, yeah.
Right, and a list of nominations on top of that. So, yeah, it's a big one for sure. And yeah, there were a lot of the big names who were in the movie were bigger coming out of this movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was huge. I mean, you talked about Pacino, but I mean, Brando. I mean, Brando was a big name, and honestly, just got bigger. And just got to where he was in demand and commanding an awful lot of money per movie. You've got, like you said, James Caan. James Caan had been in quite a bit of stuff at that point, but
Yeah.
this launched him for sure. Robert Duvall
Same thing.
had been in stuff for a while. I mean, and yeah, I mean, just his career went nuts after this, and he was just doing all kinds of stuff for a good long while. And obviously it made Coppola. I mean, just straight up made him. I mean, this was a guy who had gotten started working with Corman. And here he is, making the biggest movie of 1972.
Now, wasn't he the mob tie that they had, though?
No. Well, I mean, his family's from Italy and all of that stuff, but I mean, most of that came from the book, didn't it? I don't know. I don't know that much about it, but
who wrote the book?
Mario Puzo.
Mario Puzo.
Okay, that's who I'm thinking. Never mind. Yep, that's who I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Coppola played it up for sure. Coppola took advantage of it.
Yeah.
And made it. I mean, I think part of you were talking about what makes this movie different from previous gangster movies is this came across as very real. There was, I mean, it was wild, crazy gangster stuff going on, but it was the way they centered it around actual family members and these tightly woven networks of people. It gave it a sense of reality, and I think it just kind of gripped people in a way that gangster movies never did before.
Yeah.
It wasn't just these people break the law and get away and that's it. I mean, that's the focus of the entire movie. Yeah, it definitely focuses on the family in terms of blood family and then the family that's operating this organization. And yeah,
Right,
I
the crime
don't
family,
think
the real
the crime
family versus the crime family, and how that all
And
gets intertwined.
and I don't think that has been shown before. If it has, it's been very rarely and not you know not the
It was
focus.
done, yeah, it was done really well here, and it was done with that sense of we're telling the story of this group of people. They're not nice people, but they're still kind of the heroes of the story.
Right. Because that's how things work. And
Yeah.
with loyalty and, yeah.
Right. And in the past,
right or wrong, these guys would die for you.
Yeah.
Right. And in the past, gangster movies were crime stories, and so the gangsters were the bad guys.
Yeah.
This went a long way towards. It may not have been the first, but it was definitely the biggest movie that made crime kind of the main focus.
Yeah.
This is what this is about. This is what these people do. And here are the people, and let's let you get to know them, and you can kind of judge for yourself what they are.
Yeah.
Which hadn't really been done that much at that point.
Now, these characters, although the Corleone family is fictional, they were based on real people. That's what made the story so believable. It wasn't Vito Corleone. It was supposed to be Frank Costello. So there was the singer. I can't even remember his name. They've pictured him after Frank Sinatra. So there was real people, real mobsters that these people were actually imitating. And rumor, I heard that in the making of this, there was a lot of, you can't show that. And with the book, especially, you can't show that, you can't do this, you can't say that kind of thing, because it was kind of hitting in. The people who this was made after knew who it was made after,
Or at least suspected enough to be willing to act on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one way to make your stuff feel real is you have to inject a level of reality into it.
And there's some things that a mobster would do, and there's some things they wouldn't do, and you had to know where to put that line without making it too, they wouldn't do that kind of thing, But the horse's head, oh yeah, totally believable. I mean,
I'm a little surprised you didn't check out of the movie at that point.
Yeah, I mean, almost. But, I mean, that's the way it was. That was your most prized possession. That's what's making you money right now. Here it is in your bed.
Yep.
You're lucky you're not sleeping with the fishes.
Hit them where it hurts.
Yeah. They got what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy, did star in that film. See, and I don't know if I'm running into 2 or 3, because when I watch things like this, I have to watch all of it. I just can't watch one. If one is on TV, I'll watch that on TV and start digging around for 2 and 3, Sometimes that's my curse.
See, I find it interesting that 3 was so much later.
Yeah, I looked at that. I just looked that up, and it actually was 90 when it came out.
Which surprises me a little.
Yeah.
I mean, not
Which
entirely.
Was the same year that Goodfellas was made. So it kind of makes you wonder if they were like, maybe we should put our hand back out again.
Right. Let's see if we can, for lack of a better term, milk this a little more.
Right.
Recapture the magic.
3, there's actually, I think, like 3 different versions of it. Like, one is Godfather 3, and the other one's Godfather 3 Coda, and there's like one more. And all of them have like a kind of a different ending to them. And he said he made Coda to fix what he did in 3, and it didn't. I mean, it didn't. it,
Wasn't 3 done by the daughter, though?
maybe it was.
I know she's
Sofia
involved.
Coppola?
But I know she was involved, but I don't remember if she was directing or whatever.
Yeah. I said 3 was, they should have just left it alone, you know. And the way 2 ended, you could draw your own assumption of what was going to happen to Michael and everything else. And 3 just came along and kind of ruled what you thought. That little happy ending? No.
See, my favorite ending is when we found out Tim Curry was Mr. Body. So, you know. Come on, folks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Flames were coming out of my
Out
head.
of my face. You know. Flames, flames, flames at the side of my face. Heaving, breathing. Never mind.
I like the reference.
Thank you.
Mm.
What are your thoughts, Les?
This was a launching pad for some actors that weren't named. The female actors. Actresses there were new. Talia Shire.
Yeah.
Diane
Keaton.
Diane Keaton.
Yeah.
Because this was before Keaton did any of her Woody Allen stuff. This was before Shire did Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a breakout for them, which I kind of enjoyed. The problem I had with the movie is that the movie stopped about halfway through the book. And as a result, the movie didn't give you the final look. Didn't let you know what transpired. Now, granted, the multitude of sequels were able to breach that, so it was not fully lost. But I was just kind of upset that if you read the book, you scratched your head and said, why did they stop there? The idea that they were doing the sequels for money is not far-fetched by any means. And I'm sorry that they felt like they had to do that. If they had just held it to a story, I think they would have had a better shot at making it a 3-part movie or just a single movie and splice it all together. You know, film it at the same time.
Yeah.
Like Three Musketeers was in the 70s.
Yeah.
That would be a lot easier to deal with for the public. But
now,
yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're talking.
No, I'm done.
No, you're not. Go ahead. Continue.
Yes, I am.
Continue.
All right, I'll continue for him then. The thing I find interesting about that is that they only get through half of the story. One, makes me wonder if they were planning a sequel the whole time. And 2, makes me wonder how they managed to do that with a 3-hour movie. And then they turn around and 2 is more than 3 hours long. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a lot of juicy tidbits in there that they definitely want to get on screen, but holy cow. That's a lot of movie we're talking about here to get through the whole story. I mean, I'd almost wonder why they didn't split it into 3 movies just for 1 and 2.
Well, there's actually 8-hour version that's actually 1 and 2 combined. From what I've understand, because I've not watched it. I'm not sure it's one I wouldn't want to watch, but essentially the whole Vito story is the beginning, and then we have Godfather Part 1, and then Michael's story from Part 2 after that. And that's like 8 hours.
See, and I'm not familiar enough with the book to know if that's how the book is laid out.
I've read the book, but I have not read the book, so I can't say one way or another.
I haven't read the book either.
Did you read the book, Les?
Years ago, yeah.
Does that sound vaguely familiar then? Did it start off with Vito's story, or did it just start off with how the movie kind of started off? Or a combination?
It was a combination. They would do flashbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, this is supposition on my part, but I know it's the two movies combined to do like an 8-hour thing, and maybe that's closer to the book. I have no clue, but I do know that exists.
Seems like a lot.
I think that would make more sense though, because the very beginning of Godfather, it starts with the wedding. You come to me. And I think if they showed how he got there, would have made a little bit more sense of the respect that was supposed to be shown, the ties that he had,
Right. You kind of have to set it up first.
That way. Yeah.
You almost have to set it up and then flash back. I can see that.
Why is everyone kissing this guy's ass? What makes him special? Your daughter's getting married. Ooh.
Well, I mean, I kind of see it both ways. And in another comparison, or to a comparison in my eyes, and God knows I don't have the best vision. And it's going to be kind of a sore subject here, Star Wars. We have the whole entire episode 1 setting up the entire story.
Yeah.
And Lucas felt that needed to be done, but God, if he had done that with the very first film instead of the Star Wars film that we got, oh God, we wouldn't have gotten here.
Yeah, it would have never made it. Never made any sense at all.
There was just enough information thrown out there for us watching the film going, okay, let's not try to overanalyze it. There's just enough information so that we can move on with the story. Maybe not the best comparison, but it's very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, we're told this guy is a crime lord, and so I mean,
Well, they don't really tell you that either. It starts off with him in his office. So you walk. It's pretty much the camera pans in on you walking into this guy's conversation. So they don't really explain who he is or what it is. But with the Star Trek thing though, the father of the episode was actually the surprise. So you didn't want to reveal that. With this one, it wasn't really so much of a surprise. You kind of needed to know who the father was, to know who the son was,
Well, it could have been handled better. I'm not going to argue with that, but it's just, we are. It's like, we're not given enough information, then we complain about it, and then when it's spoon-fed, we're going, come on, give us a break. We're not idiots here. So, it's a fine line to kind of.
Stories are funny that way.
Yeah.
Because some of them appeal to some people and not others. Yeah. And so, it's going to get read differently by different people.
True.
And so you just kind of do the best you can. You set up the story the best way the way you think is going to make the most sense. And some people will agree and some people won't. And that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think a little more, what the hell was going on would have been better in that scene.
Well, we were going what the hell's going on because
Yeah.
People were asking for favors, and I didn't understand the whole concept when I saw it the first time. But when I see it again and again, and it's just like, okay, knowing the full story and knowing the characters and all that, I accepted it easier.
Yeah. And why it was so, like, you better have a good reason for coming in here because the day it was, and, So he was taking care of his heavy stuff on a day that should have been, fun and exciting and laughing. And I think, too, I keep going to Sopranos because that's my most comfortable gang mob thing. But Tony Soprano, it's a lot different if you go and shoot him. So he would be Don Vito. It's a lot different when you go to shoot him than one of his thugs. So that's why I think they should have built that up more to understand, oh my God, these guys just tried to take out the head guy, not some, debt collector or head of a little street gang. This was the guy, the original guy that you guys just tried to kill.
Well,
But
I mean,
I still don't. Yeah, go ahead.
they took out one of their top lieutenants, and then they turn around and killed Sonny.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are pretty big messages there, and
They are, but when you hit it's different hitting the boss than hitting a made guy, though. It's to retaliate. It would be understandable to protect your made guys around you first, because nobody ever thinks they're coming for the head guy, because that's like, it makes sense in the mind of a non-criminal, but in the world of respect and blood, you just don't do that. You pick off around him before you go straight for, when you're doing that, you're ready to apocalypse, not just a little street tuffle and we're going to take some power. You're ready to decimate the whole program.
You're trying to change the world.
Yeah. And you just don't do that, Not the way they were raised. Even if you hate the guy, there's a respect there.
Right. And it all kind of flashes back in its own way to the times of chivalry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of chivalric code in that.
Yeah.
Which is a fun glimpse in the past, really.
And you really test the boundaries of when you really say, I would die for you. When something like that happens, okay, are you? Because you're about to die. These guys are killing all of us. Are you still going to stay here? Knowing you could run and be safe, how many people stay and die?
Safe being relative at that point. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
At least the running start sort of thing. But yeah.
And this kind of also introduced us to the rat. How bad snitching can get in and just totally ruin and corrode and, years of hard work.
Well, again, it's a betrayal.
Yep.
It breaks the code.
Yeah.
There's a code of honor there.
Yeah. So, yeah. Definitely watch it again and again.
Obviously. Jeez.
Right. and for some reason, if some of you listeners have never seen it, if you like true crime and that, old history kind of true crime kind of thing, this movie really plugs into that. I'm not going to say it's true crime, but the story kind of heads down that way, and,
It has a lot in common with the current kind of excitement about true crime.
Yeah.
For sure. It all gives us a glimpse at our inner bad boy.
Yeah.
Or bad girl.
It kind of shows you how it began,
Mm-hmm. Or where it was at least a quantum leap in how it was presented in the media.
Yeah.
And in movies. Big time.
Weren't there movies like imitations, of course, things like The Dawn is Dead, or I'm trying to think of another one. There were imitations galore.
Oh yeah.
So people are going to make money off it, and I didn't have a problem, except the movies to make or to live off this were so freaking bad. And I'm a person that likes bad movies, but boy, these even got me to wonder if I want to watch movies like this anymore.
Yeah. Some of them do get pretty, you know.
Well,
They think when they're making a mafia movie, they can just go all crazy and violent and no reason behind it. And, you know, like we laid out here, there's a reason and a respect and they miss all that, you know.
what they think is that if they're planning to make a ripoff, all they really need is a cool title and a cool poster and whatever the opening weekend box is, and they're done.
Yeah.
That's all they need. So it doesn't really have to be that good. You don't have to put that much effort into the script when you really know you're not going to have, you don't have to have any staying power. You just have to get it into the theaters for a week.
Yeah. It's someone to watch.
Sorry if I sound cynical, but.
No. Well, that's all movies.
Actual.
Honestly, though, you know, once it's made, they don't really give a crap after that. They just.
Right, they got paid. They're good.
Yeah.
And it's whether the studio makes any money off of it or not. It's going to tell us whether we get to do it again.
Yep.
Yep.
And if we don't do it again with this one, we just make up another one and do it again anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, Les.
Your statement of sequels is interesting because I watched a movie the other day called The Bubble, which is a parody of a parody of movies done in a series, and this was supposedly the filming of a movie called Cliff Beasts 6. This is on, I want to say this is on Netflix. If it's not, it's on Amazon. But this is hysterical. Karen Gillan, Pablo Pascal, several people during the pandemic are brought back to do the new Cliff Beasts movie, and they have to contend with the COVID and the flu, and they're in an area that they are separated from everybody. But anyway, this is what sequel for The Godfather was for me, especially the third one. Third one had me bored to tears. I was going, this has to stop.
Well, and to an extent, that's almost what the Scream movies turned into at some point, too.
Yes.
I mean, it took self-parody it took self-reflectiveness all the way to self-parody.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it got a little weird, but, I mean, it can be done. It can be entertaining, even, but it can also go too far.
But it's got to be done correctly.
Right.
Yep.
You have to take the time and make the script that works.
Right.
And get the right people.
And understand that there's a difference between a mafia and a gang. That's usually where they go wrong, too.
Right. They just assume that they're equal things.
Yeah,
that mafia
and they're
is,
not.
And they can be very different.
Yeah. Well, they weren't organized the same way.
Right.
Liz, you said that, which movie was it that you said was your favorite mob movie?
I like the Goodfellas.
Okay.
I also like, I don't know if it's Donnie or Johnny Brasco. That one was pretty good.
Donnie
too.
Brasco?
Yeah. That
Johnny
kind of shows
Dangerously?
you the inside of a snitch, too. And it's Johnny Depp.
Nobody heard what I said.
I did. I liked that one. That's one of the few gangster movies I got a kick out of.
Did y'all catch
Which
what I
one?
said?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
What did I say, Liz?
You said living dangerously. You were talking about Johnny Dangerously.
Johnny Dangerously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Starring Batman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Saving kittens.
My father hit me once. Just once.
That one's not bad for a funny ha-ha,
It's not bad for the 80s either.
Mm-hmm. Why, which is your favorite, Les?
If I want to sit down and watch a mobster movie,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch The French Connection every time.
French. I don't think I've seen that one. Think now.
and that is based on true story about a smuggling group coming in from France. And Gene Hackman is the lead. And he is freaking powerful in that movie.
Oh.
Talk about another movie that put an actor on the map.
Pretty much.
You see that one on Amazon Prime. You have to rent it, but yeah, I will definitely watch that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, usually anything with mobsters in it, I'm there. Maybe it's a good thing I grew up Christian.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it is.
Just different kind of mob.
Wow.
10-foot pole, no thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't even think I'm going near that one with an 11-foot pole.
I'm going to leave that one alone, too.
Or a 20-foot Swede.
Anybody who's been in a Pentecostal church can tell you about organized religion. And it's pretty close to what we've just talked about. Mikey's going, yep, at this point, we're going to... You ready? 3, 2, 1.
Dang.
I think you're being called out.
No, I'm calling myself out.
Yeah, no, that was that. I was hearing that as a suggestion. That's what I was hearing that as. What I may or may not take. We'll see.
I set it up for you if you want to.
Well, I guess on that note, we're going to take a quick break because I think we need one right now.
I was about to say goodnight.
No, we're not done yet.
No, we're not done yet. It's just break time. So with that, we will be right back. And we're back. It's time for our new segment, Geek News for You, something we've debuted about a month ago. We will throw out a couple of news items for us to kind of discuss. We'll definitely have these on our show notes, and we do have a page on the website with the links, so you can check those out and get a little bit more information that we may not provide through our discussion. So for this week, it is Liz and myself. So Liz, would you like to go first?
Alrighty. This one's kind of interesting, a different concept for DC. A while back, they announced that they were going to be partnering up with Spotify And at first I was kind of like, maybe audiobooks. Podcasts never dawned on me. I don't know why. It's not like I'm on one or anything. But they've just released now that a Batman series with a Black Panther star as Bruce Wayne. They finally set a release date on it. Actually, the Black Panther star is Winston Duke, and he's going to be Bruce Wayne, Batman. Oh my goodness, the vocal talents. They've got Gina Rodriguez, Jason Isaac, Hussam Bon Hi. I can't pronounce his name. I won't even try. Lance Reddick, Ashley Birch, and John Rhys Davies. So pretty good cast. I mean, just right out the gate. Interesting concept, though. They are going to have Bruce Wayne as a let me find this again, make sure I'm going to tell you guys right. He is working as a forensic pathologist in a Gotham hospital. So I thought, that's different. Which is kind of cool because now he's going to see these victims firsthand. And of course, Batman will come in and save the day. They have not told us how many episodes this podcast will be. They do have David Goyer working on the script, so should be pretty interesting. I'm pretty excited about this one. Like I said, I don't know why it never dawned on me that they would do this, but hopefully, I don't know. Maybe we'll get some podcasts and they'll burn it out in a comic book or something. But and in all of that reading, I don't think they actually told us, unless I'm just overlooking it, the date when it's released. Oh, May 5th. May 5th on Spotify. So, pretty cool.
I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the talent they have behind that. Wow,
It's interesting to see DC do this because I know Marvel has been doing audio casts for a couple of years now, because I remember there being one for Wolverine back in, I think it was like 2019 or 2020. So,
yeah,
I mean, podcasts, audio dramas, that kind of stuff, that's kind of big. Doctor Who's been doing the audio books for the Big Finish. Was it the Big Finish?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, they've been doing that for years. So I mean, there is an audience out there that they should tap into.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
I'll put a link in Discord. I think.
Well, and then we'll have something in our show notes, and then and on the website too. So we'll have it on several different fronts.
Who has Discord?
Well,
I hope our listeners do.
Well, if they don't, they can go get it off either Discord.com or go to any of the app stores, and they can download it for free and sign up as free. And like I said before, we do have an invite on our homepage, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. And thank you for setting that up there, Les. Appreciate that.
Sure.
All right. For my news item, this was kind of interesting out of left field. Apparently, we are getting Gold Geek Comics back. 4 gentlemen, Lance Linderman, Adam Brooks, Mike Dines, and Arnold Guerrero, bought the trademark last year with the intention of bringing back the publishing company. And what they've put out a call for submissions, but they've also they said that they would bring back some of the classic stories that Gold Key put out during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So this is kind of cool. And they even promised to bring back the painted covers that Gold Key did a lot, which was, some of those covers were incredible. If you've not seen them, just Google Gold Key and then covers, and you'll see some beautiful stuff. I'm excited about this. It'll be interesting to see what they bring back. And actually, I had to do a little research, because when I automatically think of Gold Key, I'm thinking of a lot of the licensed stuff. They used to do Disney comics. They used to do Harvey comics. And if you're not familiar with Harvey publications, I mean, it's Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's Little Lulu, Baby Huey, the big ass duck. And all those, I was thinking about those, and obviously there was all the TV shows and stuff that they used to do, like Bonanza and Adam 12 and some of that stuff. I was like, well, I don't see y'all doing that, but I was trying to remember what some of the original content they did, and I kind of hit myself after looking at this list. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. I mean, they're the ones that came up with Dr. Solar. They came up with Magnus the Robot Fighter, Turok, Son of Stone. These were characters that Dynamite just used within the last decade or so. So there may be some familiarity there if they decide to bring those characters back, which would be cool. Who else? And one that I was kind of surprised, because it was Space Family Robinson. I thought that was literally Lost in Space, but no, they came up with the concept literally the same time the TV show came about. So they worked out a deal where the title actually referred to Lost in Space, but Space Family Robinson is an original concept for them. They could bring that back, especially since we had the Lost in Space TV show, or the streaming series, a couple of years ago. But Cult Files of Dr. Spectre, Brothers of the Spear. Some of these might be kind of interesting to see. Have them come back and see what creators who read those books back in the day might do with them now. So that just makes me even more excited about seeing what they can do. So.
I didn't realize that Turok was a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Turok, Son of Stone?
Yep.
That was the first video game to get banned in my home.
Wow.
Cool.
Anything with blood. The first one they made, you couldn't turn it off. And then the second one they made, you could turn it off or you could turn the blood green. For some reason, I didn't mind the green blood.
Oh, Sprockwood.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was a video game. Or a comic book.
Yep. So.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
A lot of potential there.
Right, those are some beautiful covers.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and it'd be exciting to see what they do, and it sounds like from the comments that they put in the press release, they're big fans. So there's going to be a lot of love and a lot of care that's going to be going through this. This is not hey, we're banking on the name and the nostalgia and all that. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case here. There's going to be some.
I hope they're successful too.
I mean, they're hoping. They're obviously doing that, but it's not they're not callous. It doesn't seem like there's any callous here. So,
that's cool.
Yep.
Yep. Nice.
All right. Any special shout outs this week or mentions?
I want to shout out Les's computer for keeping it together this week.
Woohoo!
Yes, yay!
Of course, you said that now, And then we're right here at the
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
That's why I didn't say it before now, that's for sure.
Definitely. Anything else?
Yeah.
Just hold it together, Les's computer. A couple more minutes. Okay, we will move on to our regular shout-outs. First, want to thank Pop Goes to Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of fellow podcasts. Definitely check them out. There's a link in our show notes. I also want to shout out the fine men and women who've been so kind as to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our links on Twitter. We want you to check them out as well. And the best way to do that is do a search. Hashtag Potter and Family, all one word. Just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, please, please, please click on that link and download that episode, and we hope you have a great time listening to them. Thank you guys as always. Manny the Martyr, we want to thank them for supplying music for our podcast. There'll be a link in the show notes where you can check out more of their music. Thank you guys as always. And you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or go to our About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out there. We do have a channel on our Discord for feedback, so or there's also one for questions, so if you have questions or any kind of feedback, you can send them that way. Social media, we are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks, and we're obviously on Twitter, @Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us on both platforms. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download and listen to our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate, easy for me to say, rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,